ice and shadow and sweat beads coming down everywhere.
So good.
So better than I normally do.
Right.
So hi, this is Linkara and the Geek talking about comics.
A panel in which we discuss modern finance.
Just to get... Lord knows people these days need it.
Yeah.
Just to get this out of the way, I have not read Batman number 50 yet, so if you have questions about the Batman-Catwoman wedding, I have no idea what the hell's going on with that. I know something happened, but that's to be
I
expected.
leafed through it. I did read Catwoman number 1 and enjoyed it though. Okay, so we're not going to stand on ceremony. If you've got a question, raise your hand.
All right, great panel, guys.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry.
Oh, notes.
No, I can't get you a job in the industry. No, go ahead. Thank you.
We met earlier on the street, but
I first saw you, and I think last year, and you got on me from my darkness, and you guys are just both amazing. I also saw your wrist.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also love your wrist too, and I have a question for both of you. Have you both ever read any original Death's Head comics, and maybe Death's Head 2?
you know, I did read some of like the reprints Marvel UK put out of Death's Head. I did read Death's Head 2 when Liam Sharp was drawing, like the first 4 issues or so. So I am familiar with both characters. Yeah.
I have never read any Death's Head, but just for those who are not familiar with it, Death's Head is a character who has a very odd and bizarre history in the Marvel Universe. I've talked about this before, how Marvel's licensed stuff is actually kind of canon in the Marvel Universe. And Death's Head was a case where he was a character, a kind of a robotic assassin, invented for Transformers. But the thing is, they wanted to make sure they owned the rights to the character, as opposed to the Transformers, which tends to happen in licensed work. So they had Death's Head premiere. It was in his own miniseries or in another book first.
I'm not sure.
Basically, they rushed out a book to make sure that he appeared in Marvel, in some other Marvel comic, before he showed up in the Transformers book, just to make sure that they own the rights to the character. And Death's Head has basically met all the licensed stuff too. He's met the Transformers, he's met the Doctor.
To keep things really confusing, when they did the reprints of, when Death's Head 2 became so popular, they reprinted all the Death's Head 1 stuff. And they put Death's Head 2 in, and he was like looking through his memories in some like weird asteroid and something. And they had linking stories, the first page and the last page, and then like at the end of the miniseries, he runs into the 7th Doctor, who's the guy who takes him away from there. So it's just to keep things confusing. The Doctor guest starred in his miniseries, looking back at his original form, which was introduced for Transformers. So
That's weird. That's weird.
We don't need projectors.
And have you also read Westland, and also what would be the 90s pictures of Jefferson 2 comics? Would it be awesome with guns?
Of course he would say that. Nice Kid has a very low tolerance for what is actually good or not, and the low bar for that is basically, does it have guns? Are people smiling? And how rockin' is it? Rockin' is measured in mega awesomes.
I think I already asked you this Last Stand of Records. Have you ever read IDW's Last Stand of Records?
I have not. I know I have a copy of it somewhere that someone sent me. I'm a more casual Transformers fan, so I have not read a lot of the stuff. I know the IDW run is coming to an end soon, which is like very critically acclaimed, especially because one of the cool things that I've only heard about, they ended the war between the Autobots and the Decepticons, so they became on the same side. And you have this interesting idea of Megatron trying to be a good guy. Okay.
yes, come back.
Have either of you read the new Gwenpool comic book line?
We could.
Okay. Well, I keep putting it back in, and then the line it's fine. I did read. I got like the first trade paperback on digital, and I read that. I thought it was okay. I'm not. I was more into Silk, and I felt like Gwenpool kind of robbed Silk of her thunder. So I know it's very popular, but it's not my cup of tea per se.
Is it Gwen Stacy?
It's Gwen Stacy if she got bitten by the radioactive spider. Like an altered, when they did the Spider-Verse, she was one of these.
Gwenpool is a different thing.
Oh, I'm thinking of Gwen. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're thinking of Spider-Gwen. Gwenpool is
I'm thinking of Spider-Gwen.
is more like Deadpool, but basically she's like a comics fan who became part of the comics world, and basically it's a more meta take on everything, and there's lots of humors poking fun at the industry. I have never read it in its entirety. I read the final issue of it, which was fantastic. I do recommend that. My wife's been trying to get me into it forever, but from what little I did read of it, it's great. So yeah.
Well, go ahead and pull it when Stacy, the Spider-Gwen came out like the same thing. They were all cashing in on Gwen Stacy variant covers, and they're just like throwing ideas at the wall.
Yeah.
There's Gwenum too.
Gwenum?
Not alive.
Captain Gwen America.
Yeah. The Gwen Skull.
Mr. Gwentastic.
Yeah.
Gwen Vito!
The human Gwen.
Dr.
The human Gwen.
Dr. Gwen. The Gwen
One
Mary.
man and the
The human
wasp.
splat.
Yeah.
The Gwen. Splat.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, unfortunately I've only read so much Gwenpool.
Yes, sir.
What are some of your favorite comics that are not DC or Marvel?
They don't exist.
I've been a huge Gold Digger fan since high school, which is Antarctic Press by Fred Perry. A lot of Phil Foglio comics, Girl Genius, Buck Godot's Afghan in Space, which you can read on his website for free. Buck Godot is a really good sci-fi story, but with a lot of the Phil Foglio humor. So.
In my case, a lot of the non-Marvel and DC stuff that I read is basically webcomics. So Schlock Mercenary, Dumbing of Age, and Short Pack, David Will's comics. There's one that I read intermittently, which is a photo comic called Darths and Droids, which is a retelling of all of Star Wars as if it was a D&D campaign being acted out by a bunch of players. And it's hilarious and invented and had the one phrase that was never uttered before on the internet, because they actually did do a Google search for it just to see if it ever happened. Jar Jar, you're a genius! Otherwise, the only other non-Marvel DC stuff I tend to be reading right now, I think, is Invader Zim. And Stargate, because Stargate Universe, they finally continued on with that comic form.
I was reading ROM for IDW, but that was really good. Yeah, that's...
Ron keeps getting interrupted for crossover miniseries, and it bugs me.
My favorite Image comic is Lazarus, which is they're doing great world building on, and Saga is excellent as well.
We're done with Vine?
Oh, I think I've read it. I don't think I read it regularly. I think I may have read the first couple issues though.
I never read it, sorry. All right, next question. Let's go in the back. Black hat on that side. I'm not wearing my glasses, so sorry. It's just vague shapes for a lot of people.
Okay, so a long time ago, I vaguely remember you saying there was you put out a video of like comics you wouldn't read.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wouldn't review at least.
Oh, okay. So, have you ever thought about like going back and like reading some of those comics you said you would do? Let's say, for example, like Sonichu.
Sonichu is never going to happen, but here's the funny thing. That list is outdated by so much because I've done like at least 6 or 7 of those. One More Day was on there, Manga was on there, stuff like Who Wants to Be a Superhero was on there. I haven't actually reviewed that, but if it ever happens for like a Patreon request, Patreon requests kind of open the floodgates for a lot of, stuff that I said I would never do. Sonic Comic was number 1 on the list, and immediately afterwards was the 100th episode where I reviewed a Sonic Comic.
Sonic Live.
It's more of at the time it was more just a general guideline of what I wanted to do because people were constantly requesting this kind of stuff to me. Why don't you review Sonichu? Why aren't you reviewing Who Wants to Be a Superhero? Why aren't you looking at Marvel Zombies, Marvel vs. DC, etc., etc.? And the simple truth was I wasn't interested in doing that. Because, first of all, my show is about comic books, not comic-related media, comic books. Just that, not the movies based off of that. A lot of shows that say they're focused around comic books look at non-comic related stuff. What they need is superhero media. And that's fine, if that's what you want to do. I just wish that, honest in the marketing kind of a thing. But the thing is, with the Patreon sponsored reviews, I'm more than happy to, break the rules even more on that, if they were ever really rules. But yeah, Sonic 2 is never going to happen. First of all, aside from the fact that I really don't want to open up that can of worms and all that jazz, the simple fact is, it was a webcomic made for fun. As far as I know, he wasn't trying to sell it commercially or anything like that. So, yeah, I try to avoid stuff like that because if it's just made for their own enjoyment, their own pleasure, it just seems like it's really just mean to attack something like that, no matter what the person behind it may or may not have done.
Yeah.
So, but that's just my own personal take on it. Brian, what kind of stuff would you never review?
Probably hardcore porn comics.
I've not broken that rule yet,
And
so that one.
that said, I did enjoy the superhero stuff that was in Penthouse Comics in the 90s, but I would not do a review of it. I don't get the Sonic comic book thing. I've never understood that. I was in my comic book store buying, like, my superhero comics, and these two 16-year-old boys came in, walked in the back, came back out, and each one had a single Sonic comic book. I'm like, what? Why? But there's a huge fan following for Sonic comics. I've never understood that myself. I mean, I get it if it was like kids reading it, but it's just, there's this hardcore Sonic comic book following. I've never understood that.
I have never understood it either, and part of that is probably because I know a lot of people got into it thanks to Sonic Sat AM, and I never watched Sonic Sat AM when I was a kid. I actually watched The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog when I was a kid, which is not as good. It's basically more just like a Looney Tunes.
Some of Jaleel White's best work.
What about Sonic X?
I never watched Sonic X either. Because to me, I was never that into Sonic to begin with. Even though I was a Genesis kid, I just played the Genesis Sonic games and that was it. But a lot of people, just like for some reason, the storylines and that one resonated with them, and they're still constant fans of it today, until Ken Penders screwed everything over. Penders! They keep saying they'll make a movie. There's a Detective Pikachu movie coming out.
Jim Carrey is Eggman.
Oh.
Okay, next question.
Anyway, let me get one. Black Mask. Yeah.
What do you think of Shattered Grid?
I only read like the first or second issue of Shattered Grid, so far I'm enjoying it. I'm behind in a lot of stuff recently, unfortunately, just because stuff keeps happening. Got into a car accident, I have people staying with me. Just stuff keeps happening that keeps me like, okay, I gotta buy the comics, but I'm not actually gonna read them for a few weeks.
Yeah, I haven't read Shattered Grid. The only Power Rangers comic I read was the Pink miniseries, which because I was doing Loot Crate at the time, and they gave me like the 0 and 1 issue of the normal Power Rangers and issue 1 of Pink, and I really liked Pink because it's, following up on what happened to Kimberly after she leaves the show. And so that was kind of a last time some people will be crossing over with some other people in cameos, but I enjoyed the Pink miniseries very much. I know a lot of people are talking about Shattered Grid, a lot of people like it, so it's got buzz, I'll give it that. Yes, Rio.
Has there ever been any property that you felt was done better in the comics than like the whole original show, movie, etc.?
Has there ever been a property that was done better in comics than the original format?
I mean, the entire DC cinematic universe.
Ouch.
What do you say?
The entire DC cinematic
I like Wonder
universe is
Woman,
better
but
than
I like some of the comic versions
form.
better.
Yeah.
And that's okay, you're allowed to, and it's okay to disagree about that. And Wonder Woman was good. I'm happy Wonder Woman existed. Please do not kill me.
You could make the argument again with a lot of the IDW properties because ROM, Transformers, those were all toy lines. ROM never had a cartoon show. Marvel Comic came and got all that kind of
basically
industry
entire
buzz
mythos
on it. Yeah. So some toy lines definitely have been better as comic books. So you could argue that the Transformers TV show is better than the comic book, but there are some people who say the comic book's better than the TV show. I mean, it's very subjective. Dark Horse. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the Hellboy comics better than I like the Hellboy movies. No offense to what they did, but I felt like Del Toro was on the cusp of making the great Hellboy movie, because if like we did a special edition of the Golden Army where we cut out all the Three's Company love triangle stuff, I think it could be a really good Hellboy movie. And I'm hoping the new one will kind of be more along the lines of what the comics have done, because One thing Mignola does that's great is he takes all these myths and kind of blends them together to tell one overall arcing story that's really good. So I'd like to see a really great Hellboy movie, and hopefully we will.
It's an interesting thing we've seen now as time has gone on, because we were both, fans of comics and whatnot in the 90s, where the prevailing attitude towards a lot of comic book related movies and these superhero related movies was, well, the comics did it better because the studios didn't think that a lot of superhero stuff could translate properly. They had to keep reinventing it. There's the reason why there wasn't a Superman 5 for so long, or at least, there's such a gap between Superman 4 and Superman Returns, is because directors and people kept coming on trying to reinvent the mythos. Thinking that, well, this is just silly, I can do it much more serious. And you don't really hear a lot of people nowadays going, well, the comics were so much better, this did it so much better, the comic did this so much better, because, especially with the Marvel movies, they found a way to balance the ridiculous with the serious and make it work in a modern context.
That's totally true.
And yeah, so people have less to complain about. As long as they're getting the essence of the character down, who cares if they don't have the exact character dynamics? Who cares if the Mandarin is, actually has 10 rings or not? Well, some people care about that.
A lot of people care about that.
But less people do, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, the only marketable character was Batman. There's like Batman cartoons, Batman movies, Batman books, but no other superhero could crack the formula, as it were.
Yep. And now we have a sequel to an Ant-Man movie that's coming out. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to it.
This happened last year. I didn't get a chance to see Spider-Man Homecoming because we were here at Animal.
I've seen Spider-Man Homecoming.
I've seen part of it, and it's like the only Marvel movie I haven't seen. It's like I'm still burned out. It's like my third Spider-Man.
Homecoming is actually really good.
Okay.
Yeah, Homecoming's great. No, it's great. It's great. It's great.
What was that?
No, he got a suit from Tony Stark.
He needs to be married for that to happen.
As a kid. He's a little British kid with an American accent. Okay. Yes.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on Malibu Comics, specifically Lord Pumpkin and Sludge.
Oh God, I love Sludge back in the day. Malibu Comics was kind of like an imprint that got bought up by Marvel, and all the imprints they buy, they shelved it and have done nothing with it. But there was Prime, Manta, Ultra Force, which had a really crappy cartoon for a while. But Sludge was this guy who got Swamp Thing. He got killed, thrown in, but instead of a swamp, he got thrown in toxic waste and came back as this big slime monster. And his arch enemy was Lord Pumpkin. It was just basically Sam Hine from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. It was kind of crazy, but I loved it. Was it Kelly Jones who did that? Drew that? I don't remember. But yeah, Malibu had a lot of fun ideas. I wish they'd do something with the Malibu properties. I wish they'd do something more with the cross-gen properties. But with cross-gen, it's except for the detective one, they kind of let's reinvent it and not bring back the original characters, which is what the fans wanted. So.
Yeah, Malibu is one of those is one of those really sad stories in the comic industry, if only because they had a universe that was building potential, had a lot of things going for them, but what they had above that Marvel wanted was a digital coloring process, which back in the 90s was new technology, and they had it down so well, Marvel decided, we're gonna buy you out and just do that. But of course they have all these characters, so it's I'll just reinvent them, toss them into a few things, and yeah, basically the entire line died as a result of that.
And threw a few lame characters into the Juggernaut was on Ultra Force for a while.
They reinvented Mantra, and I always said I would do a Mantra episode at some point, because they took the original concept, which was a very a macho kind of
an ancient warrior getting reincarnated into male bodies by this wizard. Then the wizard goes missing. He's reincarnated. No, his soul is put into a woman's body for the first time.
And basically, well, I've never read it myself. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Well, it has your standard issue, oh no, I'm a guy in a woman's body kind of jokes. Apparently it mellowed out and actually became very interesting. And then when they reinvented Mantra under the Marvel banner, it just became some generic teenage superhero and had too many lovingly drawn shots of teenagers in scantily clad clothing. So.
Well, the original Mantra, that's where Terry Dodson got his start. Yeah, so. You pick one.
Yeah, I'll pick one. Red Shirt.
Any storylines or properties, characters, whatever that you think they should write more storylines for, they aren't.
I've always been fond of Danny Chase, but no one seems to want to do anything with him.
Marvel.
No. No.
Those poor molecules!
Well, no. Yeah, Danny Chase, the Titans group that I have been promoting heavily, the Rebirth one, they've broken up and reformed the team under because of a frickin' Scott Snyder storyline that's pissing me off so much. And the thing is, I don't mind a team shake-up every once in a while. I hate how they've handled it, though. They had the Justice League come in and say, "Oh, you guys don't know what you're doing. Donna Troy, a future villainous Donna Troy came back in time. We have to break you up now." It's just like, who the hell are you people to tell them what to do? You're not the arbiters of all other superhero teams out there. But the worst part is that Nightwing agrees with him and disbands the Titans. And thus, when they've reinvented it, now they're under Justice League authority, and they have like their own room in the Hall of Justice. So basically, what I'm getting down to is, I want more stories about the Titans group that really got me interested. Dan Abnett, who's writing it, still, he's earned enough trust for me to see where this is going. But the Titans special, in the wake of this whole No Justice thing, is what the storyline is called. It's not off to a good start, and I don't give a crap about the Justice League stuff, and I'm not reading any of it. So any stuff that you feel should have?
I'd really like somebody to do the New Warriors correctly.
Yes.
Not just, here's one or two members and a whole bunch of new people. If there was a way to just get them all back together and, let's start the New Warriors redemption tour. Oh, I'm sorry we blew up a town, but let's move on. I have a lot of fond memories of the 90s comic, and that's something I'd like to see done right. And Kevin Graveau had that interesting idea of taking the Deep Hard Mutants and giving them technology-powered suits to be a new team. That was kind of interesting. It's either too much of the old or not enough of the old. And they keep reinventing it, and it just hasn't worked out. So I'd like to see a good reinvention of the New Warriors concept. That's in the back.
Have any of you ever read Doomsday Clock?
I've been reading Doomsday Clock, yes.
Doomsday Clock is still coming out, which is part of if you're asking for opinions on that, it's hard to give opinions about it other than what we've read so far, because so far, it's fine. For those who don't know, Doomsday Clock is the official sequel to Watchmen.
Really?
It is also
set in the DC universe.
It's a crossover with the DC universe. More or less, the revelation from DC Rebirth #1, spoilers, was that the reason why the New 52 happened was Dr. Manhattan stole 10 years of the DC universe. And it kind of screwed everything up. It's a weird enough concept as it is, and while normally back 5-10 years ago, I would have been outraged that we ever did anything more with Watchmen beyond the one story. Nowadays, I'm old and just like, I don't care anymore. So, and the thing is, DC Rebirth #1 was intriguing enough for me to just like, okay, show me what you got. And so far, at the 5 issues they put out, it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the story, and it's two of my favorite creators working together, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. That said, the Rebirth era is coming to an end, and we're going into the Jim Lee era now, and I'm sure he's going to be shoving Wildstorm down our throat at some point. Wildstorm doesn't work in the DC universe, it needs to be its own thing, but Doomsday Clock, they've introduced some interesting villains from Watchmen universe, the Mime and his girlfriend, I can't remember the character's name either. And they just met the Joker. It brought Ozymandias back and put him up against Lex Luthor. There's some interesting pairings going on here, so I'm enjoying it for what it is. If you don't want a sequel to Watchmen, don't read it as a sequel to Watchmen. Read it as a DC universe that has a story that has the Watchmen characters in it. So,
It's also, the thing is, we also have the hindsight of 30, 40 years of having Watchmen around, where we've been able to analyze it and deconstruct it and think about it and do all these things. And of course, we're not going to be able to have the same kind of thoughts about Doomsday Clock because it's incomplete. And we don't have as much time in hindsight to think about, is this good, is this up on par with it? So far, it's enjoyable. They're clearly taking the concept of a Watchmen sequel and crossover very seriously. There are no tie-in issues. There's no tie-in media like an Ozymandias miniseries talking about what happened in between, or a one-shot showing what happened to Night Owl and Silk Spectre after the events of Watchmen. We have a general idea of what happened afterwards, and for some of the characters, but it's not being treated like massive, huge event that is going to reshape the DC universe forever. No, it's here's Watchmen characters and some new Watchmen characters interacting with the DC universe proper, and they're treating it as seriously as it can be, which is both good for it and bad for it in some ways, because after all, DC Rebirth has been leading up to this with a few other storylines that have kind of been hinting at what's been going on and all culminating in this. But since they're downplaying it because it's Watchmen, it doesn't necessarily feel yet like this is the culmination of everything that's been happening, but it's still a good story so far in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you sir.
What's your opinion on Damian Wayne as a character?
I love that little brat. I didn't like him originally, but over time he's mellowed out. I kind of miss him being paired with Dick Grayson when Dick Grayson was Batman for a while after Bruce was dead. Again, that happens sometimes. But he's an interesting contrast to previous Robins, because previous Robins have always been the happy-go-lucky, we're the devil-may-care attitude, ha-ha, I'm a swashbuckler while Batman is grim and gritty and moody and all that, whereas Damian is the ultra-serious, I am better than everyone else around you. He's kind of like a mini edgelord teenager, but in a good way, where he thinks that he's better than he really is, and he's just like, aha, I have assembled this team together because I am the smartest of Robins.
For me,
I love it.
For me, that intensity got real old real quick, but in Super Sons, Tomasi kind of slowly mellowed him out by pairing him with John Kemp. So I really love Super Sons. I'm going to be reading the new series when that comes out.
What do you think of him
Super
finally
Sons,
getting aged
that's
up
cool.
a little?
How old is he now? Like
Super
13?
Sons?
Yeah.
He's old enough to run the Teen Titans.
Robin.
I love how if they
Batman.
continue to age him up, he will end up being like the same age as Kemp.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Go back to Watchmen. What are your thoughts on Alan Moore?
He's a grumpy old man who is very super talented. And the thing is, as long as you don't ask him about the things that piss him off, you'll be happy to give insightful, interesting things to say and be positive about the industry. It's just, don't ask him about DC or Watchmen or anything where he got screwed over.
Here's my Alan Moore impression. Do you bastards put my name on your movie or I'll sue you to hell. Alan Moore, ladies and gentlemen. Miracle Man comes out and they have to credit him as the original writer. I mean, come on, Alan. Just take the fucking check.
He's an artist, and he cares very strongly about his art, and he should be allowed to have that attitude if he wants to. But the thing is, I think he's wrong about superheroes. He very strongly believes that superheroes are very much a thing for children, and doesn't like that adults are so into them. And he wants the industry to be more than just superheroes, and that's a fair opinion to take. He's wrong, but that's a fair opinion to have.
It is more than superheroes these days.
What was that?
It is more than superheroes these days, the industry.
Yes, but the dominant.
But it's still
I
dominant,
say
yeah.
the dominant